Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to head a bit north for this review once again to the Stockholm area, and we're going to go to the southeast of the main city to a little set of islands once again known as the Fjäderholms, or Fjäderholmarnas as they're known in Swedish. So for this review then we are of course going to have a look at another beer from Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri. This is review number 9 from these guys if I remember correctly. So for this one we are going to have a look at Dimman, which comes in at 5.6% ABV. They're describing this one as a hazy IPA, and this was released as part of the Untitled assortment for September 2020 through Systembolaget here in Sweden. So the last beer that I had from these guys was called Everybody's Doing It. That was a New England IPA at 5.6%. The level of flavour in that, incidentally, was really impressive when you consider the how low it was in alcohol. That was also 5.6% actually, but I was really impressed with that beer, I have to say. And then before that I had the Cut Yard Lager, which was a really nicely done Vienna lager in my opinion actually. I really liked that beer. But I always enjoy reviewing the beers from these guys. I'm curious to see whether this one is a kind of continuation of the Everybody's Doing It from last month, because as I say, that's probably one of the best beers I've had from them actually, one of the ones I've been most impressed with actually. But yeah, generally speaking, this is a brewery that I do keep an eye out for in the Lokala because they're always putting some really interesting beers out there. They actually remind me quite a lot of Malmö Brewing Company, where I go every so often and have a beer or two actually. It's one of the few occasions that I drink outside of the house actually when I go down to Malmö Brewing Company. But these guys, their beers have quite a similar vibe to them actually, and that's probably why I quite like them so much. But yeah, one of the breweries that I would recommend you check out. You are most likely to find these in the kind of Stockholm area, so if you get the chance I recommend that you check out Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri. And as I've told you before, from the smaller breweries in Sweden you can find some really good quality beer, and a lot of that is because the home brewing standard here is so high because of how strict the alcohol laws are. But yeah, definitely cool to have another beer from Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So let's see how we get on. As always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri before. You will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. They're getting quite prolific these days. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. Always great to hear from you guys, and your support of the channel over the last years is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri, as I've told you already, are based on a small set of islands of the same name, which you'll find out to the east of central Stockholm. The company itself was founded back in 2013 by Pelle Ljunggren and Andreas Wheelman, both of whom worked for Mackmyra, Sweden's first whisky distillery, if I'm remembering rightly. I'm pretty sure I am. But they had often talked about kind of brewing beer together, and they began to homebrew, and eventually they managed to sort out a premises to turn commercial in late 2013, and they were ready to open by April of 2014. So Tobias Forsberg was the brewer until summer of 2019, and then he was replaced by Per Salkvist, who used to work for Nordic Kiwi, who are now known as Northern Exposure Brewing Company, another kind of Stockholm area brewery that I would recommend that you check out. The Dolphin Juice that they do is a lovely IPA actually, so do go and check them out. But these guys have their own restaurant and bar that you'll find on the island in their just right next to the brewery. Basically it's the same building, but this stops trading over the winter, and this is quite common in Sweden actually. You do get quite a few just summer businesses actually, but the business itself, the restaurant runs from spring to autumn, but the brewery itself is a year-round business, and it's located right next to the water, and apparently most of the customer base that they get in the restaurant is actually tourists. It's tourists that come across from Stockholm and other parts of Sweden and things. So yeah, if you look at the pictures of this building, it's one of these kind of typical red wooden Scandinavian waterside buildings, and I do hope, as I say, to get up there at some point. Hopefully it's going to be next year now. I would think it will be next year, but I do want to get up to Stockholm again and get out to the Fjäderholmarnas and have a little look at it. I've heard it's very nice actually, and these guys were actually quite keen to do a sort of meet the brewery segment actually, so hopefully that's something we can film at some point next year. There's a lot of breweries who are very interested in doing these Meet the Brewery segments in Stockholm and Gothenburg. It's just a case of trying to you know, make things happen, if you like, and actually get up there to have a visit. But this brewery apparently has its own boat, which doesn't solve all of the kind of logistical issues that they encounter with being located on an island. But in 2018 they produced around 70,000 litres of beer. I've still not found a more up-to-date figure of their brewing capacity, but 1/3 of the beer roughly is sold on the island, about 1/3 goes to Stockholm and the surrounding area, and then 1/3 of it goes to Systembolaget to be sent across the rest of the country. But as of September 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 65 different kinds of beer actually. So yeah, a fairly prolific brewery, these guys. They always seem to have at least one new beer. Usually they seem to have one new beer in the Lokalis Småskaligt every month, and as I say, I keep an eye out for them because they really remind me a bit of Malmö Brewing Company. I've said for a long time that Malmö Brewing really need to put together a production facility and get some of their beers out there, because their beers are pretty damn good actually. I really like what those guys are doing. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri for the moment. As I say, a really nice little brewery, and I do hope that I can get up there and meet the guys at some point, because these guys have been really, you know, they've actually been very positive and stuff about the videos and things that I've done. So yeah, review number 9 at this point. But yeah, let's leave it at that for the history section and have a taste of the beer. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the brewery, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate brewery. The Beer Advocate pages, sorry, to learn more about the brewery and all its beers. So yeah, let's have a taste of this and see how we get on. This one has that sort of kind of neon light type vibe to it. It looks like the sign to a nightclub actually. That's one of my friends was saying that. But yeah, there you can see, there is the Fjäderholmarnas symbol, of course, the anchor symbol, basically linking this beer into the, you know, like, my brain is not working. It's basically kind of showing you the island heritage, the sort of seafaring heritage of the island, I guess. And there you can see that is also on the bottle cap as well. As I told you at the start of the video, this one is a 5.6% hazy IPA. I'm not sure if it will be a similar in terms of recipe and things compared to the last one that we had, but yeah, knowing this brewery, it will be quite a nice beer actually. So without further ado, let's get this guy out and we will get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. It does tell you a little bit about the brewery on the side here, but we've been over that in previous videos, and yeah, I've kind of told you a good history of the brewery at the moment as well. Oh, now this one's definitely less hazy than the other one, so yeah, it's not a continuation. Let me just get the last little bit. Yeah, so it's a kind of hazy IPA. I'm guessing that this one, just by the look of it, this is probably going to be more of a hybrid between what they what they usually did with their IPAs, and it's maybe got a little bit of New England character as well. What does it say on the ingredients? Oh, it doesn't. It doesn't actually have the ingredients listed here. I thought they had to do that in Sweden. Yeah, no, I thought they had to have that in case people had allergies and stuff, but I guess not. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, it is a hazy IPA, but it's more like one of these. It definitely looks more like one of these kind of hybrid IPAs. A little bit New England, a little bit West Coast. But yeah, as you can see, this beer poured with about a third, somewhere between a quarter and a third finger of a frothy, I would say kind of creamy coloured head. 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. And in terms of colour, I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on the camera right enough, because my camera controls colour is a bit strange. But this one I would say is a sort of medium amber, this one. Medium kind of amber colour. But yeah, it looks very, very nice. Looks kind of typical for an IPA these days. So yeah, nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is, but yeah, I like how this one, I like how it looks. It should be good. But yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh yeah, this is quite nice actually. I think this is a little bit more, it comes across as really more bready and kind of sweet actually. This is interesting. This is a little bit more like some of the other IPAs that I've had from these guys before actually. This is definitely not a continuation of the Everybody's Doing It actually. This is more kind of like the, probably the Dubbel Larsen, and I forget what the other IPAs were called that I had actually. yeah. I still remember the one that I just always remember, the first one that I tried was the Dubel Larsen, and I think the reason I got it was, you know, Henrik Larsen. I think that was genuinely the reason I chose that beer, and also it was a brewery that I hadn't had before. But yeah, the aroma coming out of this one is quite nice. This is definitely a more kind of slightly sweeter and more malty leaning IPA in my mind. So straight away with this beer, you're going to notice the kind of bready base that the beer has. It's got a lovely little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive, biscuity, and it's actually more of a Werther's Original type note that's coming out of this one. It is more of that kind of Werther's Original, how do you say, yeah, that sort of, Werther's Original isn't butterscotch, it's like a cream candy sort of thing. But yeah, it really has, this beer has a lot of that Werther's Original-y kind of brown sugary sweetness to it. Fudge almost is probably a good description of this one. So yeah, that really forms the base of the beer. There is a wee bit of a kind of more grainy biscuity note to it, lovely bit of smooth bread. Yeah, I like how the aroma, the malt base of this goes together. There is a wee bit of a sweet caramelly note to it, but yeah, a nice bit of a, it's really Werther's Originally for me, I would really say that. Yeah, this one's a little bit more typical of what I remember the earlier IPAs that I had actually. I can't remember when I first reviewed a beer from these guys. Would that have been, must have been 2018. Has it been 2 years that I've been reviewing stuff from these guys? I honestly can't remember. But yeah, I've been reviewing stuff from these guys for quite a wee while now. And you know, this one for me, definitely one of their more malty leaning IPAs. I think even compared to the other ones that I had before, this one does seem like it's got a bit more malty character to it. And at 5.6%, you know, that's quite surprising actually. Normally you'd expect a beer like that to be a little bit more kind of hop forward, if you like. But yeah, the malty side of it, I really like it. It's the Scottish sweet tooth, of course, kind of coming out. But yeah, the malty side of this beer is really nice, as I say. Quite bready, quite Werther's Originally, a little bit of biscuit in there as well. I think that kind of sums it up quite nicely. In terms of the hoppy side of things then, there's a nice little bit of a, how would we say, there is a nice little bit of a, there's a wee tiny bit of earthiness in there, but mainly the green side of the hops in this beer for me are quite grassy. There's a little bit of floral character as well actually. So yeah, it's got a nice bit of a kind of floral note to it. Yeah, nice kind of smooth grassiness, nice little bit of floral character in there. And yeah, a bit of bready, as I say, it's mainly the malts really kind of start to take over this one, but I think the kind of grassy qualities that the beer has, that sort of suits the malty level of the beer as well. So that's interesting to do with this one, that's definitely interesting. But yeah, there's a wee bit of floral character in there, I say a little bit grassy, wee touch earthy. You know, it's kind of what you'd expect, to be honest, in terms of the green side of things. On the fruity side though, this is where it's a bit interesting. I mean, for me, it's a bit hard to pick out. I mean, I think I've got a feeling that this one might be, there's something, it's got a wee bit of an orangey character to it. There is a bit of a lighter kind of tropical fruit, like a mango-y, apricot-y kind of thing. Yeah, maybe a wee bit of a kind of peary ester as well, to be honest. I'm not getting, I mean, in terms of fruitiness and stuff, I'm not getting too much out of it. I think quite orangey. There's a good little bit of an orangey character to this one. There's a wee bit of a sort of mango-y, apricot-y sort of thing, and a bit of pear as well actually, definitely a wee bit of pear coming out of this one. So yeah, I like how this, I do like how it kind of goes together, to be honest with you. It's quite a nice malty leaning IPA, this one, in terms of the aroma. But yeah, take a little bit of time and check out the aroma for yourself, and we'll have a taste of it now then. So this one is Dimman, 5.6% IPA from Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri out to the east of Stockholm. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte, skål. Yeah, this one's a wee bit more typical of their kind of previous efforts, if you like. It's a very bready, malty IPA, this one. Yeah, I quite like that as well. It's just, that's the thing that's good about this brewery, is they're always trying different styles. I mean, in the last 3 months we've had a Vienna Lager, then we had a you know, straight up really nicely done New England IPA, and now we've got a more kind of bready leaning IPA. Definitely, I'd say this is definitely more Definitely a more kind of bigger, bready IPA this rather than anything else. Yeah, it's a sort of, it's one of these kind of, how do you say, like a, I don't know if you can really call it a brauhaus, it's one of these more like brew pubby type IPAs. I think that's probably a fair description of this one. And I like this actually, I like these kind of ones. I do enjoy a slightly more bready leaning IPA. I mean, I always remember this one, it almost reminds me of some of the IPAs that I had in the Czech Republic from the likes of Pivovar and things like that. You know, Czech beer is really well known for being quite bready and very smooth actually. Some of the German IPAs that I had, some of the early German IPAs I had back in, you know, sort of, when was that? Was that about 2016? That was there, maybe 2017, you know, when I was having some of the German brewed IPAs, they were quite bready like this as well. So this one's almost like some of the kind of Central European IPAs that you're going to find, at least back a couple of years ago. So yeah, this is an interesting one. I do like a bit of a bready malt base in the beer, so this is one that kind of suits me. It really does remind me of the Pivovar beers actually. I've heard, you know, Pivovar, if you go to the Czech Republic, those guys are doing some really interesting stuff. This is almost a bit like some of those beers. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this one then and see how we go. So straight away with this beer, you get a good bit of breadiness. That just kind of blankets the middle of your tongue there, the breadiness, and it does thicken up the further you go into the flavour. If you go towards the back third of the tongue, you can feel it's a little bit more grainy, a little bit thicker. As I say, a little bit more kind of grainy and toasty, but as you move further forward into the how do you say, my brain is really not working in this review. Yeah, but as you move further forward into that middle third of your palate, there we go, you get a little bit more, you can feel that it's just a little bit more crisp almost. You get a bit more graininess underneath in the bready character, but on top of that, you get a nice little bit of an oily kind of sweetness there. There's a bit of a Werther's Original kind of quality. Yeah, I like, you know, that kind of oily Werther's Original quality just sits on top, and you do get a few wee kind of biscuity elements coming out of it as well, and I like how that goes together. As I say, a very bready leaning IPA for me, but that Werther's Originally element does come out of it quite nicely. So yeah, it really does remind me of some of these Czech IPAs that I had. For sure, it's a wee nostalgia trip, that actually. But yeah, very bready leaning, very kind of Werther's Originally, and it does get a little bit more biscuity leaning the further you go into the aftertaste actually. But yeah, there's not much more to report. There's maybe one or two little slightly woody undertones to the middle of your palate, but you can feel that the middle of your palate really does thicken up with this one the further that you go into the aftertaste actually. On the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate, there's a nice little bit of earthiness. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate, you do get more and more of a kind of floral quality to this beer, which is quite interesting. It does develop a little bit of kind of bitterness there, and it's almost a little bit spicy on the front corners of the palate, but round the very front curve of the tongue it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say actually. So that's an interesting point to make about this one. So yeah, on the fruity side of things, this one, it's got actually quite wet in its fruitiness. That's interesting. So yeah, if you go towards the back of that front third of your tongue, as I always say, the front third of your palate is where you get the kind of more oily bubble, where the juicy fruity esters will push their way out of the beer. So yeah, when you go towards the back of that, you do have a little bit of a there is a wee tiny bit of a slightly darker like passion fruity note, but as you move further forward from that, you get a wee bit more of a kind of mango-y type quality to the beer. A mango, I don't know. There's a wee bit of an apricot-y kind of underlying as well to this one. Then as you reach the kind of front half of that front third of your tongue, it's a bit more oily and orange. I do want to say there's maybe, I've got a feeling that this could be, I think maybe Mosaic, and oh, could it be? It's either, don't know if it's not quite complex enough to be Citra, to be honest with you. Could it just be a Simcoe and Mosaic one, this? I think it could be. This one's quite straight shooting in terms of its fruits. There's a bit of the passion fruit. It kind of smoothens out a little bit and becomes a bit more, I think the mangoes, to be honest, I would change my mind and say it's a bit more kind of apricotty, to be honest with you, as you go further forward. There's a few kind of peary type esters in there as well, but then it's definitely more kind of orangey as you reach the kind of front part of that front third of your tongue. Definitely, it's a bit of a straight shooter, this beer in terms of its fruity qualities. It's not the most complex one I've had from these guys in terms of fruitiness. So yeah, I would be tempted to say this might be Simcoe and Mosaic that's in this. The other, you've got other things that it could be, like El Dorado would be an example. I don't know how easy that is to get for European breweries though. Galaxy and Victoria's Secret are other examples. Galaxy I know is quite hard for European breweries to get actually, but yeah, this one for me, I think I've got a feeling that it's maybe Simcoe and Mosaic that's in this one. It's very straight shooting in terms of its fruits, and the fruits are really quite nice and wet actually with this beer, and it gives you a bit of contrast actually, because the malty side of this beer, as I said, is quite thick and quite oily almost. So this is an IPA that's definitely made me think a little bit. It's quite different in the way it comes across, but as I said, that's what you'll often get from Fjäderholmarnas, and when they're quite a small scale brewery, that's one of the good things that you'll get. They're always releasing different stuff every month, and it just kind of shows you, as I say, Vienna Lager, straight up New England IPA, and now a more kind of bready type IPA, this one. But yeah, I like this. I do like this one. Is it one of the beers that's blown me away most from these guys? I wouldn't say so on that. I think, the Vienna Lager, the Cut Yard, was one that I really, really liked. That really struck me down. But is it another solid beer from Fjäderholmarnas? I'd definitely say that. And this is the kind of thing, these guys will experiment, they will try different things. Yeah, this one's definitely a little bit more out there, I think, compared to some of the other ones. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel and stuff like that, I would say this is it's kind of at the top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation's very smooth. In some ways, would we say, the carbonation's really smooth in this one. As I said, it's got a bit of oiliness to it. The malty side of this beer really gives it a bit of an oiliness, but at the same time on the back end it's actually quite wet and crisp almost. In terms of IBUs, I think this one's maybe about 40. I think it's sitting around the 40, maybe even 50 mark. Malt base, like I say, very smooth but big oily kind of character sitting on top of it. The fruitiness, there is a wee bit of oiliness to it, and it's a little bit lighter and more and it has a bit of wetness actually when it comes to the fruity side of things too. So yeah, I do like how this one goes together. It gets a thumbs up from me actually. This is a really interesting beer. As I said, it really reminds me of some of the Czech brewed IPAs that I had from the likes of Matuszka and things like that, and Pivovar Klok, if I remember rightly, was another one. So yeah, it really reminds me of some of those beers I had in Czech a couple of years ago actually, but and also some of the German IPAs that I drank back in 2017, I think it was. So yeah, have a go. Have a go at this one for yourself and just see what you think. I think this is a really interesting beer and quite quirky. I think this one, quite like a lot of Central European brewed IPAs back in the day. So yeah, thumbs up to Fjäderholmarnas for trying something different. This is a beer that's made me think a little bit, which I always like. Always good when you're getting near 2,400 beers, but yeah, I like how this one goes together, and this is a brewery, as I say, that I do recommend you check out. If you like lagers, the Cut Yard Lager is awesome. I'd love to see these guys have a go at like a Doppelbock or a Scotch Ale or something like that. I think those are the next things. I've had an Imperial Stout, I've had a barley wine. I think, yeah, Dunkel, Doppelbock and Scotch Ale, those are the styles that I'd like to see from these guys over the next little while. I do need to have a go at their kind of regular Helles type lager as well, so we'll see what we can throw up from these guys in coming reviews. But yeah, definitely check out this brewery if you get the chance. Let's leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri as well. We will return to these guys at some point soon. As I said, I hope that I can get an out and about video done at the bar and a Meet the Brewery segment done as well. We'll see about doing that, and hopefully that can appear at some point next year actually. Thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. This one was Dimman, a 5.6% hazy, kind of more bready leaning IPA from Fjäderholmarnas Bryggeri on the Fjäderholmarnas Islands out to the kind of southeast, eastish of Stockholm. Slange, skål, cheers.